What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Airflow Podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Thomas, where we flow in faith, not fear. So, this is episode 7 in our Manifestation Rewritten series. And today we're going to get into spiritual law. Um, like many things dealing with the spirit, dealing with the kingdom, a lot of things is based in agriculture, and manifestation is no different. It's agriculture as well. So, it's about what you sow. So we're going to talk about seed. This episode is really going to focus on seed and our acronym of seed. But really, it's the title is seed sowing every expectation daily, because it's a daily process. So as we think about what we've been talking about thus far, we're here in episode 7. We looked at the previous episodes of this series. We've focused on aligning our thoughts. We've taken consistent action in building those habits. We've rested in trust, trusting in the process. And then, now it's really time to sow. Um, Manifestation isn't really magic. It's not magic. It's principled. So you don't harvest what you want. You harvest what you plant daily. And that's really what this is about, being intentional with our expectations and really our habits and energy, and understanding that what the spiritual law is of sowing and reaping. So we're going to go ahead and kick things off with our first letter, which is S. And for S, it stands for speak life into the soil. One of the things that we have to understand in anything that we do is that our words are seeds. Every time we speak, we're planting something. And so many times we wonder why we don't manifest what we speak. Or wait, no, I take that back. Why we don't manifest what it is that we truly desire. And it's because we desire something, but then we say words that mean something to that are totally, opposite of what we truly believe or what we want. So as we really think through this, we have to understand that our words shape our reality. And we've talked about how through the process of manifesting, we could change what our world looks like, meaning our own individual world, and to the place where the things that other people see, you don't see that. You don't see doom and gloom. You see opportunity. You see positivity when others may see differently. And it's because that's what you're manifesting. So we have to understand that we must speak as though it's already done. And again, that's if we go back and think through some of the things that we've been talking about in our previous episodes, it's really thinking and living from the end at the beginning, but it's an everyday process. Every day we're living at the end. We're thinking of what that end result that we desire is, whether it's the relationship, the peace, the joy, whether it's financial, whatever that end result is, you're living as you're there now. Your thoughts are shaped, are pointing towards that. But it can't just be that. It also has to be what comes out of your mouth. So avoid speaking fear, lack, or doubt. And for some people, that is going to be a challenge, but that's why it's a daily process. You can't just pick up this podcast episode, listen to it one time, apply the principles one day, and then think you're done. Yeah, I spoke it and I'm good. No, it doesn't work that way. This is a constant process. Hopefully you weren't born in the first words out of your mouth were complaints. And so that was something that was built up over time through experiences and whatever the situation may be. And that for us, and I say us, for all of us, that's something that habits are, bad habits, old habits, whatever. Habits are hard to break and they're hard to form because it takes consistency to do them all. You form a habit by consistently doing things one way. You break a habit by consistently doing things the opposite way. That is just the nature of who we are. So again, avoid speaking fear, lack, or doubt. The other piece is understanding that affirmation is really activation. Daily affirmations are so important. Even if it's something as simple as a sticky note that's on your monitor that has a few affirmations that you want to speak on your computer, or it's a sticky note or a few sticky notes on your mirror, or it's a sheet printed out in your office that you look at every day, or whatever that is. There should be something that constantly reminds you and affirms what it is that you feel about yourself, what you desire in life. All those things have to be applied as a daily process. And we know one of the most famous scriptures that talks about, really speaking, and again, as we said, S is speak life into soil. But one of the most famous scriptures out there is Proverbs 18:21. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. And you can't get any more cut and dry than that, right? So we must remember that we have to speak life into the soil, because if we don't, you can also, if you can speak life into soil, you can also speak death into soil. Seeds are going to grow in whatever you plant, whatever you fertilize them with, whatever it is that you're putting on top of it. You can grow a weed the same way you can grow a vegetable plant. It's all the same. The question is, what are you putting in the soil? And if you're putting life, you're going to bring forth life. You're going to bring forth something that's going to help to enhance your life and improve it, versus something that is going to take away from it. And it's all in what we say. All right. The next letter is the first E in seed. And the breakdown for that is expect results even before they show. Expectation is key. And if we think about from an agricultural standpoint, expectation is the water to your seed. Whatever you expect, and again, it goes back into, do you have negative expectations? People say, well, I knew that was going to happen when something bad happens. Well, what you spoke into the soil. That's what you put in terms of water into the soil. That's what grew. That's what produced the growth from that seed. You planted negativity, you watered it with negativity, you are going to get negativity. So you have to expect the results before they show. You don't go to the gym, and I hope you don't go to the gym and you work out one time and you expect to lose weight and build muscle just from that one workout. That if that is the case, then I would say please seek some professional health help, and it's okay. It's really okay, but results take time. But you still have to expect that you're going to get those results that you desire before they show. But again, I say desire. You can also get the results, your negative results, based off of what you put in. But we're going to focus on the things that you truly desire, the results that you truly want. So we all know that faith is believing before you see. But the other piece is you have to expect with confidence, not desperation. And that is the challenge, especially when we are pressed up against time, when we feel like we have to have a decision. We have to pay this bill. We have to provide this information today. We when there's a rush for something, a lot of times we get into that desperate phase, and then you kind of manifestation goes out the window when we get desperate. So you have to expect with confidence what you, not just speaking it, but just have those expectors very high, and knowing that this is going to happen. I expect this to happen. And then making sure that you're constantly sharing that as part of your why, because this is what's going to build that continue to build and grow that expectation. The last point here is that energy of belief is greater than energy of begging. I'll say that one more time. Energy of belief is greater than energy of begging. And I want to specify begging in this instance. Begging is not asking for help. Begging is not, you know, going to people and trying to figure out ways. But it's also making sure that you understand that begging is going to the extreme of, you put your faith out there, you sit there for a moment, for like a day, and then all of a sudden it becomes a desperation thing. And it kind of goes back to the previous point. Don't get so desperate that you kick out of faith and you lose all the things that you've been working to build on. Again, you've planted a seed in fertile soil. You've been watering it with faith. Trust that there is a process that is developing that seed and continuing to grow that seed into what it's supposed to be. Don't try to rush it because you can't be patient to see things manifest the way they're supposed to. So again, energy of belief is greater than energy of begging. Focus on what you believe on. Focus on why you believe those things, and then just allow the how to come in. That's where the manifestation comes in. All right. So here's something to kind of shift our minds, and it's just it's changing the way we say something, and it's a mind shift, but it comes from the words that come out of our mouth. So you go from saying I'm not hoping for it, you say I'm expecting it because I already sowed it. What did you sow? And I know at the beginning of this, folks probably heard sow, and they probably got to a place that they probably get to the place where they think about money. It becomes a financial thing. It's all about building and growing from a financial standpoint. And that's not necessarily all that it is. Yes, it can be money, it can be financial, but you already sowed it. What did you sow? You sowed a desire. You sowed the thing that you want, whatever that is. You've put it out there. It's in the fertile ground and you have to water it. But you can't hope for it. Hope is not something that will cause manifestation. Expectation causes manifestation. Okay. We're going to move to the next E in seed, and that next E is to execute with daily obedience. Notice it says daily obedience. And sometimes it needs to be multiple times in a day. Because you have to understand, you can't expect harvest you can't expect harvest with inconsistent sowing. Ask anybody who's done any kind of sowing, whether it's and even homeowners that have mess with their grass. I know so many times that I've in our previous home, trying to get the grass to come in thick and lush and all that good stuff. And you know, if you sow reapingly, you harvest. If you sow sparingly, you'll reap sparingly. And so there'll be times where I'll go buy a little bag of grass seed. I'll go out there and I'll plant the seed and I'll do some water. And I'm like, okay, I'm hoping this catches on. I'll overseed, do all the things that I think I'm supposed to do. But as I'm going through the process of doing it, I'm just doing it that one time. I'm like, this is enough. And it's a continual process. I should have continued to put seed out there because not all seeds from that person, think about grass. Not every grass seed will grow into a blade of grass. So that's why you overseed. That's why you keep doing it during a certain season. So that way, once it catches, it gets to the place where now it's getting growing roots. It's getting thick. It's getting to the point that you want it to get, where you want it to get to. But that's through consistency, being consistent in how we sow, what we sow, when we sow, and just making sure that is aligning with truly what we desire. So again, you can't expect harvest with inconsistent sowing. Manifestation equals aligned habits. That in itself is so important to understand. If you don't have habits, and again, habits is one thing, but aligned habits. Going back to the beginning of this, we talked about, you can't You can't believe or think one thing and then speak another and then expect those things to drive manifestation. The other thing we talked about is it has to be some level of consistency. You have to build a habit. This has to be a daily, multiple times a day process. And that's where that daily obedience comes in. You don't form good habits of working out if you only do it once a week. Or if you want to improve it, you can't just do it once a week. It has to be a consistent thing. You can't get the desired results of your body and transformation through just, changing what you eat one day or just doing, again, one day of exercise. And then you're expecting to see this giant change in your processes, and your body transformation or your body makeup. You just don't see that. It doesn't happen. So it has to be aligned habits. If you want to see true manifestation, you have to have habits that are aligning with what you desire to manifest. The other point to that is you must sow into your relationships, body, business, and mindset. You have to sow into that. What does that mean? In different ways. With my marriage, I have to sow into, you know, speaking positive, speaking life into my wife, to my kids. I have to sow into them with time. Yes, it's money, but it's also spiritual. I have to sow in through prayer. All those seeds that are planted are going to continue to grow those relationships. Same with my body. I'm at this thing right now where I've got a birthday that's coming up soon, and I've been looking at myself and I'm like, Ricky, you got to get some of this bacon off your back. I done picked up some weight. I'm getting older. That metabolism is slowing down, and it's a real thing. And then I've allowed other things to dominate and stop me from doing the things that I need to do to keep myself in shape, to keep myself healthy. And it does so much for me, but I don't consistently sow into it. So I'm not getting the results that I truly desire. I'm not getting that end result of the shape that I want, to wear the clothes that I want to be able to wear. Same thing in business. We'll never be, big time content creators. You'll never be a big time, business owner or successful business owner, successful content creator. You'll never do that unless you're sowing into it. Time, your talent, your money, your attention, like all of that matters to grow the business. And the same with the mindset. You don't do a mindset shift without taking time, whether it's reading books, going to seminars, um, mentorship, whatever those things are. You have to sow into those things, and it needs to be a daily process. And the last point that really got me pretty good when I read it before was that your routine reveals your belief. If you're not willing to go in and do something consistently, to do it daily, to be obedient with it, and continue to sow the way you need to, that shows how much you really believe in it. Because if you believe that much in it, then you will put whatever you needed to do to make it grow, and you will speak positive into it. Again, positivity into it is speaking positivity into it is so important. But if you're saying, I want to have these things, but then every day you're speaking broke, you're speaking death, you're speaking negativity, you're speaking lack, all of those things, then it basically tells me that you don't truly believe. You don't believe what you say you want. It sounds good. It's probably what you should say, but you don't believe it. And your actions around it, again, what you say, things that are coming out of your mouth, things that you do or don't do, all of that shows what your belief truly is. So here's one thing that I want folks to do, and this is just kind of exercise for this week, just to get into an idea of how to do this or do something in a daily process. But choose one area of your life, and then this will help. Choose just one and commit to sowing something intentional into it every day for the next week. Just one area that you want to enhance, you want to grow, you want to improve it, and something that you desire to manifest. Focus on one thing, one part of one thing, in that, and just sow into it. And it's okay to be intentional. If you have to schedule time, you know, in your calendar, to whether it's, no matter if it's reading a book, if it's exercising, whatever that is, take the time and just do it this week, every day. Just be very intentional about it. And that's important. The intentionality of it is important, because sometimes we do it just off of, okay, I'm gonna try this once, and then, no, be forceful, put it in the schedule. Yes, it's gonna feel weird at first, but once again, this is about building the habit. That's the whole process of that exercise. In the last letter, we as we prepare to close this episode out, is the D in seed, and D is detached from immediate outcomes. Again, that's detach from immediate outcomes, because when you're manifesting, you can't focus on the now. Meaning, as a seed, it doesn't just grow as soon as you put water on it. As soon as you plant the seed, put water on it, doesn't grow automatically. There's a process that begins. But we have to understand that seeds grow underground first. You don't see a lot of what happens with a seed. You can't see it. And yeah, there's some cameras and there's some things that now through technology you can see the process, but you don't know. You don't know that the seed is really growing or the process is really working until you start to see that sprout come up out of the dirt. But until then, you continue to water it, you continue to give it sun, you continue to give it nutrients, you continue to do what it is that you know to do, or what you've learned to do or been taught to do, to help it to grow. So when we talk about manifestation, we have to stop uprooting our seeds by doubting the timing. We get to a place of wanting this microwaved. I need it right now because I don't have patience, or I've been waiting for a while. I've asked this, I've done that. Maybe not as consistent as we need to. I don't know. And I'm not going to say that the work that you've done isn't enough, but it means the work that needs to be done isn't completed. And sometimes we do that. We're getting to a place where the seed is starting to sprout roots. The seed is starting to really draw in and go through the process that it needs to go through to start yielding results. But we tend to want to kill the process because it's taking too long. It's not as fast as we desire it to be, or we doubt that the timing is not going to happen when we want it to happen. And so we curse the seed because we don't see the results. That is not going to help us in this process. That's what detached from immediate outcomes is really driving us to not do. And so if we think about detachment is really trusting the work, or trusting it's working, even when it's not visible. Detachment is the same thing as faith in God. We know that God is working on our behalf. We may not see him, but we see the results. We see it all around us. We may not see that thing that we desire yet. For some, again, I always bring up my daughter and this desire for this vehicle that she wants. See, detachment is that she's trusting that the vehicle is hers, that she's manifesting that. That's detachment. Getting away from the immediate outcome. Yes, she wants to go to the car lot today and drive off that car lot with the vehicle that she wants. She wants that, but she also knows it's a process. Because once she follows through and does all the things that she needs to do, when she receives that vehicle, when she manifests that vehicle, and it will manifest, it will mean so much more to her, and it's going to grow her so much more in her faith. She thinks the process was about getting the vehicle. The process is understanding the power that we have through Christ. That is the goal, that we can do all things through Christ. And then the other piece that we have to learn to do in this, from when we look at detaching, is really resting while the seed matures. Again, resting doesn't mean that you just sit on your hands and you say, "Okay, God, I planted the seed. I got some soil. I planted it. Put a little water in it. Now I'm just gonna sit back and sit on my hands and just watch it." No, there's still work that needs to be done, but it's not physical labor most times. Resting is knowing that everything that I desire is going to come about. That this seed that I planted, and you plant multiple seeds because there's multiple things that we desire, but I'm constantly speaking to it. That's the work. I'm not moving it around. I'm not uprooting it and putting it back in just to check and see if anything has changed. I'm trusting the process. That's rest. That's what rest is really about. And so I ran across the quote, as I was building this episode breakdown. And one of the things that this quote that was really great said was, "You don't dig up a seed the day after planting it. Why do that with your dreams?" Again, we don't dig up our seeds the day after we plant them. So why do we do that with our dreams? Why do we have a dream and we think about that dream, we jot down notes about it, and so now the seed is planted, but then we want to take it and dig it up and say, well, it's not working or something's not right, and we abort the mission or we try to alter it so quickly. And that's what a dream is. When we have dreams, those are seeds, and those dreams are seeds based off of our desires. So we can't, digging them up means speaking negatively about them, trying to rush the process, trying to pretty much be the process. We can't make a seed grow physically. We can't. There's nothing that we can do in our human nature that's going to force that seed to grow, and it's not going to force it to grow any faster than it's meant to grow. If you try to force that, you won't get the results that you desire. So we've got to stop shortchanging ourselves, shortchanging our dreams, give them time to grow, and continue to stay in faith, continue to manifest what is needed to grow it. God is already giving us what we need. It's just us. It's really just waiting on us. So hope everybody got something from the seed um, this episode around seed. I think there's a thing that we want to really just think about, and just sort of an activation moment through this process. So take a moment and really visualize the seed that you're planting. And as I said, you know, there can be multiple seeds, but focus at one seed at a time, and going to continue to speak to the seed aloud and just say, I sow this seed in faith. I expect the harvest. You don't sow a seed and you can't without expecting the harvest. If you sow a seed in fear and you don't believe, then you're not expecting the harvest. You're just doing something, and sometimes doing something out of obedience can still yield some results, but you got to expect it to be there. You got to expect to see the harvest from it. When you plant anything, when you work out, when you invest, when you give, You give with an expectation. And that's what this is about. Sow the seed in faith and expect the harvest. So I would just say, take some time this week, as I mentioned before, write down a declaration for your mirror, write down affirmations, do something that is going to cause you and call you to really start building these habits daily. So again, we're going to go back to the challenge. Identify one seed, whether it's a belief, habit, or thought that you need to plant daily. It's something that is hindering you from being the person or being in the position you need to be. So find that one seed that you can plant daily and commit to sowing to that seed for 7 days straight. So a complete week, whatever day you hear this, and start 7 days, just continue to do that. And then, I would say post it on Instagram, send it to me. You can DM me, you can tag me, at air_flow, ATIR_flow. And then use the hashtag seed declaration. So if you're willing to do that, let's build that community up. What are those ones? So identify one seed, a belief, habit, or thought that we want to plant daily. Commit to sowing it for 7 days straight. And then if you desire to and want to grow a part of this challenge, share it. Tag me on Instagram at air_flow, or share the hashtag of hashtag seed declaration. So again, understand that seeds are sacred. They don't shout, they grow. So keep sowing, stay aligned, and then watch what happens. It's very important. And that alignment is so key, because if you're not aligned, and if your thoughts are not aligned with what your actions or the words that you speak, the manifestation will not take place. There has to be alignment. So as we close out this episode, I just want to give kind of a sneak peek of what we're going to talk about in episode 8. We're getting to the end of this 10-part series. We've got a little bit more to go, but the next episode is called Wait. It's WAIT. Watch as it transforms. So now we're sowing the seed, and we're focusing on sowing we're focused on sowing every expectation daily. And the next episode is the Wait. Watch as it transforms. Because even in silence, things are shifting. I've heard somebody say plenty of times before that, that there's something that says even though there's silence, doesn't mean that there's stagnation. Work is happening. You may not see it, but it doesn't mean it's not going on. So just keep focused on that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next episode. So again, I just want to thank everybody for listening. I really pray, as I've always done, that these episodes are helping you as they are helping, as much as they're helping me. I am so happy that I was able to come across this information. I'm so excited that I was able to read some of the teachings of Neville Goddard. It's been transformative in my thinking, and again, it's something that I have to always focus on, and not get caught back up into sort of the programming that I've developed or that's been installed over the years, just based off of some of my experiences. So again, the goal is, we want to end this manifestation series with a bang. We've got 3 episodes left after this, and I'm so excited of where it's going. So just remember, stay aligned, stay anchored, and keep flowing in everything God has planned in your life. I love you guys. And until next time, flow on.